Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and for the next hour, we are going to talk about recycling and how it's still alive, yay! And how we can keep it there and improve it and help it grow. But before I begin, I would like to, we are not live this evening, so you cannot call. However, you can email me at talk@bcattv.org if you have a question for our guests, or you'll see their email addresses. But if you have a suggestion for a future topic, I love suggestions. I would like to thank the crew for this evening. We have Chris Flaherty and Colleen Moore and Liz Gillespie, who have given up their Wednesday nights. Well, Chris has to be here anyway, so thank you, Chris. But Colleen and Liz have given up their Wednesday evenings to make sure that the show goes off without a hitch. So thank you. And last but definitely not least, as always, I would like to thank my husband, Paul, for staying home for Daddy Date Night. So hopefully homework is done and children have been sedated. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Hopefully all is well at the McNamee residence. So now I can introduce my wonderful guests for this evening, who will look a little familiar to you. We have Gretchen Carey, who is the president of MassRecycle and is also Massachusetts Recycling and Organics Coordinator. And you'll tell me more about that in a moment. For Republic Service. Okay, I couldn't fit that on my notes, so thank you. And Wanita Trabert, did I pronounce that right? Okay, who is the Director of Sustainable Materials Management for the City of Newton.
Yes, correct.
And you get paid per character in your job title.
Yes,
so.
Actually, that is true.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming again, because I know I had you on, I think it's been already 6 months.
Yeah, a while back.
Yeah.
But seems like just yesterday to me, because we have a lot of unfinished business.
Definitely.
So, little recap for people who may not have seen you on our last appearance, but briefly, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into environmental studies and recycling and helping to save the planet?
Go for it.
No easy task, I understand.
So I am from Wisconsin, and I went to a state school there in geology, then went to a different state school for grad school, and I made a decision that I was going to go to grad school for recycling, which
I didn't know they had recycling programs in college.
they really don't, but I made it happen. I did
Excellent.
I did a natural resources management degree with an emphasis on waste management. And so then I worked for the state of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and then my partner got a job out here, and so we relocated, and now I work for the city of Newton, and I'm a municipal recycling coordinator, and I also manage trash and household hazardous waste for Newton.
We have our household hazardous waste day coming up in Burlington pretty soon.
It's that time of year.
'Tis the season.
Time to clean out the closet, Jess.
Oh, don't remind me. Gotta clean out my garage.
The garage, the whole nine
Yeah,
yards.
the garage.
Yes, basements.
Sure.
How about you?
All
Gretchen?
right. Sure. So this is my third career. So the other two are for a different day. But I started about 12 years ago as a volunteer here in Burlington. And for anybody who's been here around long enough, there was a recycling committee for a while, and I was chairman of that. And my name, I was that volunteer to the degree that my name was on the DPW flyer. If you have any questions about recycling, call Gretchen Carey. So that was many years ago, but after that I ended up getting a part-time job being the recycling coordinator for the town of Bedford, and enjoyed that immensely. And then I ended up answering an ad for a full-time recycling coordinator for Republic Services, which is the hauler, the the company that picks up the trash and the recycling for both Bedford and Burlington. And so I had worked with them across, as my hauler when I was in Bedford, and liked them. Thought I could work with that. So
Excellent.
Yeah, and it started off. I was the recycling coordinator for the Revere area, but pretty quickly realized that I do also organics, which is the industry term for food waste.
Okay, like composting?
Yes,
stuff?
exactly.
Oh, okay.
So for instance, Cambridge is now got curbside food waste pickup.
Oh, cool.
And
I think
so-
Beverly does. don't they?
yeah, there is something.
Okay.
There's several of them at this point, which is
Okay.
great. And
I just
anyway,
remember
so
walking down the street. I was visiting Beverly, and they had like the little tiny
little ones,
trash
little ones.
totes,
Yep,
and I'm like,
that's
"Ooh,
right.
what are those for? Not gonna look.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, don't open that lid for sure. But yeah, so anyway, part of my job is creating the infrastructure for that for food waste, and so I now work statewide and take
Wow.
parts of Rhode Island and New Hampshire as well. And the other hat I wear, which we haven't gone into yet, but
Well,
so-
I was going to ask you how you found out about MassRecycle and
Sure.
how you both got involved and
yeah.
everything. What do they do?
All right.
Or what do you do?
Sure. Okay. It's a statewide nonprofit organization, and it is based on the idea of reducing waste and encouraging recycling, increasing recycling. So
How long has it been around? Do you know?
it
offhand?
well over 25 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That seems like a long time, but then I'm realizing that I'm just getting old, so it really isn't. So,
Yeah.
you know, to me, 30 years ago was the 1970s, you know, so.
Yeah, so I was encouraged when I was the recycling coordinator for Bedford. I was encouraged to join the board,
Okay.
and
Are they based in Boston? Or
it is a statewide group, but
Okay.
yes, we generally hang out on the eastern side of the state. Although we're working on encouraging the western half of the state to join us, but it is a statewide organization, and it's made up of everything from environmental individuals to it's kind of the intersection of the recycling industry and environmentalism.
Oh,
Is a good way
okay.
to put it. So we have businesses who are environmentally thoughtful. We've got people who are actually in the industry, like Republic Services.
Okay.
We have municipalities, like Wanita represents, and Wanita is my vice president. So
Yes.
Yay.
so I was vice president for 5 years before last summer becoming president. And Wanita and I decided that we could save the world together. So
Yeah,
that's what we're
correct.
doing. Yeah.
Yay. And I knew you. Wow. So, okay, you had mentioned before the show something called China Sword.
Sure.
And just the name is very intriguing. So, what is it?
Okay. So
I know
all right.
that's not really how I phrased the question, but you know,
That's
it's
okay,
just China
no.
Sword. It sounds like,
It's,
you know,
yeah.
samurais or something. Well,
Yeah.
samurais are Japanese, but anyway.
I'm not yet. Good call. No, I'm not actually sure how the name got started. Whether we did it or they did, I have no idea. But I'm guessing it was their name.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a policy.
It's a policy. Basically,
Yes.
China used to buy a large percentage of the world's recycled material.
Really?
So when somebody puts their
Well,
recycling
didn't they
into
buy
a
like
bin,
all of the big dig stuff? Like
I have no idea.
all the steel and from the old roadways?
Oh, probably they buy a lot
don't
of
know.
material from us.
See, again, you know, the big dig was only 5 years ago in my mind.
Right. A little further back. But
Okay, continue.
yes, so China used to buy a lot of recycled material from, especially along the coast, from recycling facilities along the coastlines.
Oh, okay.
And
What
so,
did they do with it?
well, they would make it into new things.
Oh,
Metal becomes metal, paper becomes paper. All right.
okay.
So, and then they would sell it back to us as something. All
Or
right.
it would become a shoebox for a company that produces shoes in China,
China.
and it comes shipped back
okay.
on
So like
a cargo
packaging
ship.
materials and okay.
Yes,
All of the above, plastics and all
Okay.
that.
absolutely.
Well, in the summer of 2017, they let the world know that they were changing the specifications. They felt that they were getting too much trash in with their recycling.
Well, fair enough.
And so they said that instead of the specification which it had been, which was 5% trash, or we call it contamination in the
Okay.
recycling, instead of 5%, they were only going to accept 0.5%, which is nothing.
That's big change.
It's a very big change. And they
Yes.
refused not only just like the one container, but they would refuse all the containers based on finding contamination in one container.
Wow.
So it became very quickly, it became a very expensive proposition to send them something that was less than perfect.
Yeah.
And
then you'd have to get it sent back.
Yes.
Postage due, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, very expensive. Yes. And so pretty much that put the kibosh on most of the recycling going to China.
So now what?
Well,
we have all this stuff and
yeah. So that's the problem is that it is a commodities market. So the worth of a bale of recycled paper is based on who's buying and who's selling. Just like anything else in the commodity
supply
market,
and
right?
demand.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So the biggest customer puts up his hand and decides it doesn't want any of that material anymore. Suddenly, we have a lot of material going nowhere. All right. So we have to find new buyers for it. So we are looking at smaller countries. We are looking at domestic markets. And for instance, the worth of, say, a bale of mixed paper, and I say bale, it's like a bale of hay, only it's 2,000 pounds. So it's all, recycled paper. And that went
it's
from
like the size of a small car.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. You pose next to it and it's huge, yeah. And the bale was worth somewhere between $75 and $100, and as of now it's worth $5 to $8.
Ooh.
So
that's a big difference.
It really did a number on our financial model for recycling.
Yeah.
Because up to that point we had said, bring all your recycling
So wait,
to
who
us
gets
for
the money?
free.
Who had gotten the money from, you sent this over to China, they pay $100 for
to
a bale.
us. Right.
To
the recycling facility.
Okay. So it was
so the industry used to say, we as Republic will take all of your recycling material, right? We'll take all your bins and everything else, collect it for free, and then we will process it, make it into bales of plastic, bales of paper, bales of cardboard.
So you do the separating.
And then we would do the separating, and then we would sell it.
Okay.
But the problem is all of a sudden it wasn't worth very much at all. So now we literally can't afford to keep going unless we change our model very quickly. Which caused chaos and a ripple effect throughout the system. So we had to start trying to clean up all of that contamination because the domestic markets didn't want that trash either. So suddenly it became very important to have clean recycling, and that has affected municipalities, it's affected businesses. I, as a hauler, would bring in a dumpster of recycled material and throw it onto the floor at the recycling facility where they were then going to sort it out, and they would say, ooh, yeah, that's got food in it. We don't recycle food. We don't want food at all, and we don't want your plastic bags. They get wrapped around our system. And in fact, we can't even sort that out. There's too much tomato sauce all over everything. So that paper, we're just going to trash that. We can't use that. It's not clean enough.
Okay.
And instead of charging you a minimal fee for that recycling, to tip it here, we're going to charge you $140 instead of $20 per ton. So suddenly we are getting charged a lot of money, and of course
you're getting it from both ends.
Oh yeah. We can't sell it, and we're getting So it was really tough for a while, and we've had to change our financial model a lot, which has caused problems in lots of different directions.
Okay, so basically China took the sword and stabbed us repeatedly.
Well, so I would like to clarify that this impacted not only the United States, but it did impact Western Europe, anywhere in the world that had a...
Because China bought it from everybody.
Correct.
Right.
So it was 40% of the world's recycling that they no longer are purchasing. So this impacted Australia, Japan, anywhere that had an advanced, well-developed, Canada, Central America, anywhere that had a developed recycling system.
Okay.
So it's not just us.
No,
and this was all pre.
But I would think, China would have
trade
its
war.
own recycling stuff that they wouldn't need to buy it from anywhere else. But
they actually, they didn't really have a middle class much until recently, first of all.
Okay.
And that changed, and they certainly did not have robust recycling systems everywhere.
Okay.
They just started a number of recycling systems, figuring that if they were to pick up their own material and recycle it, they would then have enough material for their facilities, their paper mills, their everything else. So,
what is this new model? Can you tell me, or
What is the what?
what is your new model?
Sure.
Because you said we
Oh,
had to change
right.
everything, and it's like, okay, what did we
Yeah.
change it to?
Sure. Well, the idea is that we now are charging, for instance, municipalities a processing fee.
Okay.
And
Now, backing up a little bit, does this have anything to do with when we went to single stream? Because I remember a while ago, we won't put a number on it. We used to have to separate glass
Yep.
and cans, metal
Sure.
and paper. So we had to sort it, and now everything goes in the giant green tote.
Sure.
Does that have any impact on?
It raised the contamination level. All right, so we thought
Okay.
that it would be good to have. It used to be your paper and cardboard were here, your bottles, cans were here, and plastics were here,
Okay.
and that was called dual stream.
Okay.
And if we put it all together, we thought people would consider it easier and recycle more. Well, they recycle more, but not necessarily all the things
right
we want
stuff.
them to. Yeah, exactly. So we're getting random stuff, and I thought maybe this was
Okay.
recyclable. And as of right now, that kind of random recycling is really hurting the system.
Okay.
We really want the things. Our recycling facility was built to take certain things out. So it sorts for things like cardboard, paper, cans, plastic containers, and glass bottles.
Okay.
That's it. So anything else that you throw in, chances are really good is going to end up as trash. There
Okay.
are
Now,
no.
with the plastic bottles, I know last time you were here, you said anything with a lid.
Yep.
But what about something like those plastic clamshell things, like your strawberries or your
So okay, so the
fruit
new
comes in?
we can talk about, we can show the pictures of what the new. Yeah, we have a
That's
visual.
right. We have a visual. So,
So
Colleen, can we put that visual up for a moment, please? Hopefully, Chris had it.
We don't have pictures.
We don't have pictures?
oh
Oh, Chris said it was available.
oh.
That is
Okay,
weird.
well, I can describe.
Okay, describe it.
Okay.
That would be cool.
And then I'm going to let Wanita run with how this has affected municipalities.
Okay.
Because, yeah, otherwise I'm talking the whole time, and she's smart, so we should let her talk.
She looks good, though. So,
She
you
does
know.
look good, okay, but okay. So, all right. So what happened is,
No, keep going.
what happened is we ended up with so many other things that we didn't want, and it was.
I know straws was a big thing.
Yeah, well, definitely straws. We also end up with ice, lids, coffee, hot chocolate, all of the above. So yes, there are a number of things that we ended
okay.
up with. Yeah, the things that make a mess out of our recycling. Okay, so we the plastic containers. So all right, a year and a half ago, every municipality, every town and city had their own set of recycling rules.
Okay.
This was a headache to anybody trying, like myself, trying to educate, where I cover the whole state of Massachusetts. Good luck to me having the right list in my hand at any given time. And at the same time, it was really hard for anybody like yourself who wants to do the right thing.
Right.
Because you've got the different right thing, whether you're in church or school or home,
Yeah.
right? You can't win that one. So the recycling, all of the recycling facilities in the state got together with the Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP,
Okay.
that's the group that handles solid waste, trash, but recycling and all of that.
Okay.
And got together and we made one set of guidelines for the entire state. And that is available at recyclesmartma.org.
Okay.
Okay. And that is a great website. It's the DEP website. And all of the haulers are getting on board with that same image, the same
Okay.
list of things that we want, things we don't want. All right. The things we don't want are basically bad for our machinery
Okay.
or the
Now,
recycling.
with this standardization from the community point of view, has the industry itself, like has Republic Services, had to have to change their machinery or their processing format?
Sure.
Because, Republic is, I'm guessing, one of many recycling facilities across the state.
Right.
And if they didn't take something before, but it's on that new list,
Sure.
then
Yep. Pretty much, actually, it was more we stopped taking these little niche items. Like, well, you really want styrofoam. So when your town goes out to, I don't know if this is too much, but if a town says, recycling this item is really important to us, well, then they're likely to get the business of the company that offers that. And so instead, we are going to all give up our individuality
Okay.
and our competitive edge
Okay.
and just all agree to the same list, because it makes
Okay.
it a whole lot easier for everybody. We can't, it's really hard for us to expect anybody's going to get it right with 351 different
Okay.
lists.
So it's kind of like the least common denominator.
Yeah, or exactly. So,
I think. Yeah.
yeah, that's right, least common denominator.
But I do think we have that slide available. So let's see if
Perfect.
Colleen can put it up.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can read it, but at least our audience will hopefully be able to read the
Not
slide.
yet.
Maybe.
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 There we
it
go.
is.
All right.
Yay!
So
Recycle
check out
Smart.
that at the bottom right-hand side. Right, it says recyclesmartma.org. All right. That's
Okay.
a great website. You'll find that very same picture. You'll also see a video of what it looks like in a recycling facility.
Okay, can you tell me the nose on the bottom, because my eyesight really isn't that great?
Can I tell you what on the bottom?
What the,
The
nose are.
The no list.
Oh, the nose. I see that.
Well, the
nose.
second one looks like plastic bags.
The first one is do not bag your recyclables.
Yes.
For
Okay.
some reason, a lot of people like to put them into plastic bags, make the bunny ears, and it's nice and clean. However, if a bag comes to us that we can't see through, we will not rip it open. It ends up as trash at this
Okay.
point. So your recycling,
So put it straight in the green
put
bin.
it, keeping it loose. That's what we
Loose.
call it. Keep it
Okay,
loose.
keep it
all right?
loose.
So put it right into your container. No bags, please.
Okay.
The second one is if you have plastic bags, single-use plastic bags from the grocery store, we do not want them in the bin. They should go back to the grocery store.
Okay. And Burlington has voted for no more plastic bags, which is effective May 1st.
Very exciting.
I believe.
We as an industry are loving it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
So-
will say on the plastic bags that actually what I have found from actually flipping lids and looking inside of green recycling bins, that it's not just the plastic shopping bags that folks are, I would say, confused on or well intended
Okay.
on. So a lot of common items that we are seeing. So say you go to the store, you buy a new toaster. You pull it out of the box, it either has cardboard on the side or styrofoam on
Yeah.
the side, and then it's wrapped in a plastic bag.
Okay.
So you pull that plastic bag off. It has the little chasing
Triangle.
arrows
Yeah.
recycling symbol. So well-intentioned individual puts it into their recycling bin. That is not accurate.
So no bags whatsoever.
Correct.
Like sometimes if you go to the mall, they have like that heavier plastic.
Yep, don't want those
Correct.
Don't want
We
those
only
either.
want anything that you would define as a plastic bottle or container.
Okay.
So
Like
any-
stiff plastic.
stiff plastic, definitely.
Hard plastic.
Yes. We don't want any kind of film or flexible,
Okay.
stretchy plastic. None
Because
of
like
that.
now, instead of the styrofoam peanuts that used to come shipping stuff, now they have
Air
like those
pillows.
little air balloon
Yeah.
things. And they have the little
Same thing.
triangle thingies on them.
So actually, the air pillows, and I would also say if anyone, well, everyone's ordering from Amazon these days. So if you order from Amazon,
Sorry.
if you order from Amazon, and a lot of stuff is coming now in these white padded envelopes.
Yeah.
And they also have the chasing arrows on them. However, if you look at that symbol very closely, it actually says take to store drop off. And so if you
So
go
you actually have to read the envelope.
correct, you actually have to read the symbol. And it's a national movement called How to Recycle.
Okay.
How the number 2 recycle.info is where you can find that
Okay.
label. What they're trying to do is streamline this recycling communication from the producers of goods
Okay.
and materials to the end consumer that is
Okay.
now putting it in either the trash or the recycling or this third category of a store drop-off site.
Okay.
So the film plastic is recyclable. It's not recyclable curbside. It
Got
has
it.
to be taken to a grocery store or a retail store.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, when Gretchen had mentioned, like, don't bag your recyclables, what about, like, those big lawn bags? The giant paper. They're like brown paper bags that you could fit a small child in or 2 small children in.
Are you throwing the child in with it into the recycling?
Well, no.
Or- okay.
No, but, you know,
We frown
I
on
know
that.
at my
Okay.
house.
Just saying.
Yeah, I know. At our house, we're really bad about shredding stuff on a regular basis. So we usually have like boxes and boxes and boxes. And we don't want to put it loose in the recycle bin, so we end up putting it in one of those giant lawn bags. It's still brown paper.
Okay, this is a
So-
great question, and shredded paper does no longer belongs in your recycling bin. Okay,
Oh.
I only recently found
Even
this,
though
and
it's
I can
paper.
tell you exactly why. Okay,
Okay.
and the why
Please
is
do.
important, I think, because
Yes.
what happens is someone well-intended like yourself or me would put it in this brown paper bag, and it would get dumped onto the recycling floor with everything else, and then run over by a large piece of machinery and go poof.
Yes,
In
exactly.
a snow
Confetti.
Which
of
would be
confetti.
spectacular.
And it was spectacular, except that anything that is even vaguely wet on the recycling floor is now covered with shredded paper.
It's now paper
and
mache.
stuck to it.
Ooh,
Yes.
okay.
So your
Paper
glass
mache
is
good,
covered
yeah.
in paper mache.
Ooh.
Your plastics are covered in paper mache. Any bit of food is now covered in paper. And we don't want that. What we want is paper over here in pieces, big
Okay.
pieces, right? Big enough to, and over on the other side, we want our plastics and our glass. So,
Okay.
so unfortunately, we do not want that paper, that shredded paper. So I suggest places like Staples have a whole system for shredding,
Okay.
and their shredding will get recycled because they take
have a
it-
special
yes.
recycling place, so it's
Exactly.
not curbside.
It doesn't. It doesn't
Okay.
get singles.
Yeah, it's not single stream.
Exactly. It doesn't get put in with single stream or the residential stream. It goes directly to a paper
Mill.
reprocessor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, because it's very clean material.
Yeah,
And so
and it's good stuff.
Yes, but not for curbside collection.
Got it.
So thanks for asking.
All right.
So
'Cause
the
I'm just
other,
curious.
so we were in the middle of the nose.
Yeah.
The nose.
Hopefully we can call
I think I should be able
back
to
up.
we may be able to call it back. I know the
So-
next one was yuck.
Yuck. Yes.
Okay.
What is yuck? Is it like
Yuck
paint?
is-
It looked like a paint splatter.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
food or liquid.
Food or liquid.
So we want your containers. We do not want the food or drink that came in them. Okay.
Got it.
And in case you're wondering how clean does it have to be, my rule is I need to not be able to tell what you were eating. If I can say that was blueberry yogurt, you have not cleaned it well enough. Okay? If
Okay.
you're saying to me there's a tiny bit, okay, well,
Because
you know.
salad dressing is really nasty to get out.
Right, and certain things are just way worse than others. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've always, we would love to recapture this material, but if it took 7 gallons of water to wash it, you've probably made the wrong choice. I did this the other day. I had a couple of bottles of salad dressing, and I won't do it again, honestly, because the amount of soapy water I had to go through to clean those out
Exactly.
just did not seem to be worth it to me. So I think it's a balance, okay? And we ask that, for instance, if you are, let's say you're out, you bought lunch out, and you want to recycle, but you're looking at your chicken Parmesan, and you're thinking, I have no way to rinse this, right? I'm out for the day. But I don't want you thinking that we want the plastic so badly that we will take the chicken Parmesan with it. We do not. And in fact, your chicken Parmesan
Quite the opposite.
is going to, exactly, quite the opposite. Your chicken Parmesan is going to destroy all of the clean paper that anyone else has thrown in.
Okay.
All right. So I ask you to make the smart move for all of us and put it in the garbage. You know, if you
Okay.
have the opportunity to rinse it out later, with things like soda and you know,
Yeah.
just pour it out, make sure there's not liquid. And if you want to recycle the cap, put it back on.
Okay.
Because the cap by itself will not make it through the system. Anything smaller than a
Oh.
credit card
Okay.
will fall through our system.
Okay.
And that includes things like plastic utensils. Okay?
Got it.
So when you're looking at it and you say to yourself, well, you know, I'd like to recycle this plastic widget that my dog was playing with or my child was playing with. If it is less than, smaller than a credit card, it will fall through. It'll end up with as trash, but it's more expensive trash now because people have sorted it out. So.
Got it.
And you asked what we were doing to adapt to try to make this higher specification, and then the fact is that we slowed down the recycling lines, the conveyor belts. We added
Okay.
more people. We're adding more, you know, gear, more technology.
Okay.
So we're definitely making investments to try to do it better.
Okay.
But we're also asking that people please keep it clean. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's.
Okay. What was the next thing on this
So
slide?
I
Do
think
you
we're going to
remember?
talk about how. Oh,
Oh.
the next thing.
do you
there was
think we
definitely
covered everything?
Tanglers was one of them.
Yeah.
So Tanglers. Do you want to go? Go ahead. I've been talking.
Okay, so tanglers
English.
are anything that's long and ropey. So
Okay.
it could be a chain, it could be a VHS tape, because once you crack open one of those, it's
Yes.
lots of
tape. People still have
people,
cassettes.
people are still trying to get rid of them.
That's
Yes,
true.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they see the plastic and they
Oh, it's plastic.
they want to recycle it.
Okay.
But however, it's not a plastic bottle or a plastic container, so don't put it in your curbside recycling. What will happen is that it actually gets wrapped up in the machinery that's used to sort everything.
Ooh.
So if you think about
Yeah.
all sorts of gears that are spinning, it would basically wrap up like hair in a vacuum cleaner.
Exactly.
Just
Yep.
gets
Or
wrapped
a
up
rubber
in.
band in a vacuum cleaner, which
Yep.
is even worse.
Yeah. absolutely.
Yep, your carpet coming
Ooh,
undone
yeah,
the edge.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
no hoses, no
Christmas lights.
Christmas lights is a good one.
I don't think you could like
You should not.
electricity stuff.
No.
So you shouldn't. That's also a drop-off recycling material. So electronics recycling is a separate
Okay.
drop-off category, not
right.
curbside recycling.
We don't want anything with a cord going into the recycling bin for that reason.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think the last item on that list is bulky items, like anything that's large, like a
Like
a
your child-
5-gallon bucket or
Okay.
something like that.
we-
Kids' toys,
I was
things
also
like that.
thinking like my child's wading pool that you get at Kmart for $10.
Sure. That's a
like-
rigid plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that's something you have to talk to the town about.
it would also be a drop-off item if
Okay.
your municipality has collection for that at a
Okay.
drop-off center.
Okay. Now, you were about to say something else. Do you remember what it was?
I think we started talking about how this financial model got turned on its
Yes.
head. So now we have to ask our customers to pay for a processing fee.
Okay.
And then if
Your
if and
customers
when-
meaning like municipalities.
So municipalities,
Okay.
right? And and businesses as well.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
everybody
Okay.
is having to pay more now.
Okay.
And this is
I
for
didn't
some
realize
people
businesses were separate. I thought they kind of smushed
we have
into
commercial and residential.
Okay.
Those are the two sides of the coin
All
for
right.
us.
Continue.
Yeah. But in some cases where you've got a lot of buying power, for instance, municipalities, we're rewriting contracts and saying we're going to ask for a processing fee on the front end, but when the market recovers and we start making money off of what we've sorted out,
Okay.
we will share with you. We'll do
Okay.
profit sharing. So,
Got it.
yeah. However, I think Wanita should tell you what we are doing as a state to clean up the residential recycling, because this is interesting.
I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So back to Mass DEP, they not only started the Recycle Smart MA
Okay.
guidelines.
Other than, I'm sorry to interrupt
okay.
again, other than going to the website to see that lovely little chart, is there anywhere else you could get it, like local libraries or local town or city halls or?
Well, coming up, okay, so it rolled out in August of last year.
Okay.
And most every DPW or Board of Health that sends out a DPW or a flyer for recycling
Okay.
sends it out about 3 months earlier than that.
Oh,
So nothing has the Recycle Smart branding yet.
Okay.
But this
not
time,
much.
okay.
Yeah.
This,
Depending on your town.
Okay.
Yeah.
but this time coming around this spring, you'll see
Okay.
that most towns will look a lot more like the Recycle Smart
Oh,
flyer.
okay.
So you'll start to see that.
Okay.
Yes.
The last thing on the Recycle Smart website, the .org website, is a search bar, which has over 400 searchable terms. There we go. And
Oh, it's clothing.
clothing. Yeah, I was trying to remember what it was. So there's it's called a Recyclopedia.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. So you can search for tin foil. Is that recyclable?
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's not?
The answer is yes if it's clean.
If it's clean. Okay.
But make sure it's not like the top of your yogurt lid is
Yeah,
not,
no.
because that's got also some sort of paint on it and all kinds of
Okay.
things. They just want clean tinfoil or clean tinfoil containers.
God. What about, I know I asked you this before and I always forget, like juice boxes or the cartons.
They are out now. They are
No.
a no. Yep. A couple things fell off and a couple things
Okay.
went on. Go for it. You know.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so
So
can-
cartons, that's what those are
Cartons.
called.
Okay.
Cartons. Aseptic containers, and a lot of soups and things are coming in those
Yeah.
now. And
because they're supposed to be environmentally friendly.
so
Friendlier.
I still make the argument that they are environmentally friendly because they actually keep whatever item is inside of them longer than previous containers.
Okay.
So even though, in some municipalities, those were accepted in the recycling, and as municipalities are adopting these Recycle Smart guidelines,
okay.
they are no longer being accepted.
Okay.
So that's the case in the city of Newton where I work, where as of August, we started saying, we don't want your cartons anymore. So
Also
the other program that I was going to talk about for Mass DEP, they started a toolkit for municipalities called the Recycling IQ program.
Okay.
And IQ stands for increased quality. So
I thought it was their intelligence, but
that's
okay.
the clever pun on it.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's a program that municipalities can actually apply for a grant to implement
okay.
this program. However, it takes a little bit of flexing of some political will to make this program happen, because what Mass DEP wants municipalities to do is to check curbside recycling bins, and if they find things that shouldn't be in there, to actually reject the bin and not pick it up
so
that
like
week.
actually go door to door and have somebody.
Yes.
I would not want that job.
Well, so you don't have to dig through it. It's just kind of a visual on the top, what
Okay.
you see. But if you find something that is not acceptable to
Like
reject.
you open it up and see the chicken parm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
exactly.
Perfect example.
Yep.
Okay.
Or
Or
the
Christmas
shredded
lights,
paper.
or yeah, exactly. All of the above.
A lot of crazy things.
Okay.
So to reject the bin at the curb, and
Okay.
so that the hauler wouldn't pick it up that week, and to leave a little tag on the handle of the cart letting you know what it was that caused it to be rejected.
Okay. Now, was that tag also a signal to the truck not
Yes.
to pick it up?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, do you follow the truck? Or
Yeah,
does the
no,
truck
we
follow you?
at the curb
or-
we just turned it around backwards. So
Oh, okay.
And so the city of Newton did this program last fall. Because the amount for the grant is based on population size for the city.
Okay.
So we are a larger municipality, so we were eligible for $40,000, and we put together a program for how to spend that money. Municipalities can use it for staffing, or they can use it just for education materials or some combination.
Okay.
And so we had the ability to just do educational materials. And
okay.
so we did 2 citywide mailings as part of the program. And the part of the toolkit is that the DEP has designed all of the materials. So everything follows the
smart guidelines.
exactly the and like the whole theme and the
okay.
branding of it,
Yep.
so that everything looks kind of nice and tidy, and it didn't take a lot of municipal time to design all of that. And then there were things like banners that we put on fences, and then these individual tags that we used for the curbside feedback portion of the program. So we did this full-scale citywide educational effort using the mailings, the banners, some earned media like our mayor's newsletter and our local paper and things like that. And then
local cable access station.
well, yeah, definitely that. And then
Sorry,
we
I had to do the plug.
Oh, of course. And then lots of social media. We did some
Okay.
paid social media ads.
Okay.
And then we did this curbside portion where we went around to a handful of areas. We could not cover the whole city. It
Right.
would just be, we'd need an army.
Insane.
Yeah. And so we did some targeted areas and went around and then inspected by lifting the lids. We did that. What we want is we want long-term behavior change. So
Okay.
we did it for, and this is part of the DEP's program, is to go back to the same house 8 weeks in a row. And so
Okay.
that's to kind of permanently change the habit, as opposed to just
Okay.
changing the habit and then they think like,
Yeah.
oh, well,
Oh, I passed, so no
No
one's
one's watching
exactly,
now. Yeah.
exactly. And so Mass DEP developed this with a nationwide nonprofit called the Recycling Partnership. And so now that's actually being launched in other states. But it's unique to Massachusetts because the Recycling Partnership, the national nonprofit, worked with Mass DEP to actually develop this program.
Okay.
And they did kind of a study. They did four different municipalities and kind of testing different methods to see which one had the
Okay.
strongest effectiveness.
Okay.
And so the whole program developed here in Massachusetts, and I know is now spreading to other states.
Cool. So how did Newton do with the spot checks?
Oh, we did. It was phenomenal.
Did we have behavioral changes? after the-
Definitely,
Oh,
definitely.
cool.
So we saw a decrease in the rejection rate by 85%.
Wow.
From the first week
That's
to
huge.
the end. And then we were getting audited by our hauler, which was Waste Management.
Okay.
And they were telling us that our contamination rate in our recycling was pretty, I mean, not high for a city, but it was 18%. So,
Okay.
they're looking for less than 10% so that they can get down to as close to this 0.5% threshold
Okay.
as possible. And in our contract, we are bound to 10% contamination or less.
Okay.
And so we were actually getting charged a penalty fee for
Okay.
having this higher rate of contamination, which is what I would say motivated the political will to pursue this program.
Yeah.
And so we did the program, and we cut our contamination rate in half, down to 9%.
Wow.
And so then we eliminated this contamination fee that we were being assessed. And
put it back into the program to
yeah, absolutely.
keep training more people.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the DEP did a really great job. Well, Wanita did a great job too, but so did Newton. But the DEP did a great job of figuring out ahead of time, like she said, what worked best. So they tried education by itself,
Okay.
and found that there was
Almost no change.
almost no change. You could tell people whatever you wanted, and until you actually smacked their hand for it, they didn't change their their way of working. So when you add enforcement, all of a sudden it becomes much
Yeah.
more effective. And,
Yes.
and
Well,
you know,
especially if you
can
stop
leave
picking
it-
up the recycle bin.
well,
it's
I was going
like,
to say,
oh,
you can leave a
Exactly.
tag and people go, oh, and some people say, oh, I thought I was recycling right. And most people think they are recycling right, which is why it's really hard to educate.
Yes.
Because they look at it and they go, oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I already
got
know that.
I know that. But then, the next thing you know, they're getting what we call the oops tag. It's like, oops, you tried hard, but you made a mistake. And then the second time you get your
and all
your
the
bin
neighbors
turned
are
around.
like, look at that.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so it becomes
there's a lot of
public
that
shaming,
too.
and
Yeah,
that works.
a little bit.
That is very effective, yeah. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's actually, Mass DEP found that this was more effective to reject the card at the curb than to issue a fine. So some municipalities have it written into their city ordinance that
Okay.
you can get a $25 fine or a $50 fine or something along those lines. Not only is that really administratively burdensome for the municipality to track and collect
Yeah.
and pay attention if you don't pay it and
Right.
all sorts of things, but it actually doesn't even work. It's like a parking ticket. If you
Oh, I got caught this time. Yeah.
exactly, and so you chance it again the next time, and so it's actually not as effective as simply saying, we'll catch you next week when things are cleaned up.
Yeah. And so just so
And
you know,
also
on-
just leaving them with a full recycle
Exactly.
bin.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Nobody
now
likes
what do I
that.
do with all this
Yes.
stuff?
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on the business side, we're as a hauler, we are communicating a lot more now with our customers. So
Okay.
so we've got businesses, and we look in their container and we say, okay, see, this is not recycling. Sorry, those are black bags. That's called trash. Whatever's in that black bag, we think of it as trash. So
Okay.
we need you to pull that out, and then we'll come back for it.
Okay.
And
I mean,
by
look
the way,
at what happened in Toy Story 3. They put the toys in the black bag, and
see, right.
there you go.
No. So so we're doing the same thing over there, and we're trying to make sure that our drivers have become our eyes in a whole new way, and it's changed the system a lot. But we are trying to encourage people to do the right thing by that fee, because that's the
Okay.
way you get people's attention. Sometimes, at least with businesses, we can't necessarily leave it there. Although that depends on what the situation
business,
is.
yeah.
We will say we're just going to send the trash truck for it because that's what it is. And so we're trying really hard to help educate people and get them to do the right thing.
Okay.
It can be challenging when you've got a university, or a 30-story building, and but the fact is that there are ways of figuring out who your culprits are, and
True.
for instance, I'll tell you now, your custodians know everything about everybody. So I talk
right.
to a lot of custodial crews, and I do a lot of training for them. I do training on Recycle Smart. How does the system work? Why do I bother? That sort of thing.
Okay.
And you definitely should bother. You should. It's well worth it. There's a lot of reasons to keep recycling, and there's been a lot of a lot of drama about how recycling is dead.
The sensationalism.
The sensationalism, yes. And we've been, thankfully, MassRecycle's been part of some really great articles lately.
Okay.
So, for instance, there was one that WBUR did a couple of weeks ago, and it was all about recycling. How you just need to keep it clean. That's the important factor. It's not dead. And especially because the DEP has some very clear-cut rules about not throwing recycling in your trash in this state. And we are
Chicken parm is not recyclable.
That's right.
Correct.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Neither are dirty diapers for some reason.
Oh.
I do not know why that's a thing, but yeah. So it is definitely getting better, and I'm getting fewer complaints from the recycling facilities, and it's going the right direction. There is a huge, the number of jobs that are involved with the recycling is actually huge.
Sounds like it's growing too.
Yes,
maybe.
yes, exactly. And the most recent, so the DEP has what they call waste bans, which say you can't throw this material in the trash because it's worth something. It has an inherent worth. Cardboard, for instance.
Okay.
So, if a business decides it's not going to bother recycling, it's just going to throw it all into the trash, cardboard sticks out when it hits the trash, the tipping floor with the rest of the trash, and you look at it, and the funny thing about cardboard is it usually has labels on the boxes. So,
Mailing label, perhaps?
Makes it easier for us to know who we should be talking to about their recycling. So there's definitely people watching on both sides now.
Okay. Now, related to something that both of you said, it made me think back several years ago where my parents live out in Western Mass. Instead of tagging the recycle bins saying this is contaminated, apparently they went around and looked at the trash bins and said, oh, you have newspaper in your trash.
Oh, is that right?
We're not going to pick up your trash
Wow.
until you start recycling.
Yeah.
Now, is that still, this is
I've
a
not
long time
heard that,
ago.
but-
Is this,
So I've heard of municipalities that are doing that have ingrained that in their culture to do that, and there's a financial incentive to do that because, well, I would say up until last year there was a very clear-cut financial incentive, and now things are a little off kilter. But we expect
transition.
them. We
will
expect them
get
to
that.
go back to somewhat of the way that they were, where trash continues, the cost continues to rise,
And
and
we're running out of places to put it.
absolutely in this state especially, and recycling now costs money, but it still costs less money than it does to manage your trash. And so there are some municipalities that have several years back, 10, 15 years back, started to enforce on the trash side to try and get as much waste diversion practices in place as possible. So I think Brockton sticks out in my head for some reason, but there's a couple of other municipalities that are doing this, and again they have in their ordinance a mechanism to issue a fine for folks that, or maybe it's like a warning and then a fine is issued if that practice continues. I read an article about it. I can try and find that and get it to you.
I was just kind of curious because it seemed like
Yeah, I would say it's not extremely common. Again,
it solves the cardboard issue, but it
Yeah.
also, has the little tag going, we're watching you.
Yeah. Again, I would go back to political will. It's really going to be, how badly the municipality wants to save those dollars versus, kind of being a nuisance to the residents and saying like, hey, you need to do the right thing or we're not going to provide this service that in most places is paid for by their tax dollars. So it's kind of, are you going to exercise that fortitude to say, no, we're only picking up your trash if it follows these guidelines versus, yeah, we'll take your trash because, you're a resident, we want to keep you happy.
There's also a system called pay as you throw, which a lot of towns have, whereby you can recycle anything you want for free, but you pay for your trash.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket, and you pay by the bag.
By the bag.
Yes, so you literally buy the bags, fill them up as high as you can, and then leave them out, and you pay $2 or $3 or whatever it costs for the bag, and the town recognizes its own colored bag and says, I'll pick that up. And so therefore you're inspired to recycle.
Yes.
Problem is that occasionally you're inspired to recycle things that aren't recyclable. So
Also true.
yeah, we
Yes.
have that problem too.
The town that I live in has that model, and we don't actually buy bags. We buy stickers at any,
okay.
like the little corner store, the little
Okay.
convenience store will sell them, grocery stores, all of that. And so you have to stick the sticker onto the bag that you're using, and there's like, a whole system to it. But it is, Mass DEP has done some data analysis, and they have this hot cold map that they've made that shows different municipalities and whether or not they have this policy in place. And by far, the municipalities that have pay-as-you-throw in place have the lowest trash tonnage rate per household served. It's very striking. It's like green for the municipalities that have the lowest rates, and then various shades leading all the way to very dark red for municipalities that have the highest rates of trash tonnage, and none of the communities in that vicinity where there's like these dark red concentrations have this policy in place.
Yeah.
But
So it's kind of like the old days when it used to be, we'll take whatever you put out.
Yeah.
They got really expensive.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And there's many municipalities that are still paying that cost, but there's not a lot of transparency. It's kind of this opaque box of like, well, I'm setting it out at the curb and I expect it to go away.
Yeah.
And in a lot of places it still does, but no one understands what the price tag associated with that service is.
Where does it go when it goes away?
Yes.
Well, I think that's been the talk of the year. There is no such place as away, right? It's still somewhere on this planet. And I think when you're talking about straws and sea turtles and marine life, all of a sudden
You've been listening to my Girl Scouts.
people are starting to get the idea that it's not really leaving.
Yeah.
It's going somewhere, but it's not. It's still coming back to us all somehow. And that's a really important message. We're one big ecosystem.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left, but I want to touch upon composting.
Oh, sure.
Because we keep talking about the chicken parm in the recycle bin. And
Yeah.
I know
What
it
can you do
can't
with
go
food?
into the compost, but
Right.
how?
Actually, it totally could.
It
depending.
could, depending on the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering where composting fits in with the bigger picture of Massachusetts.
Sure. 26% of your household waste is likely to be food waste.
Okay,
That's a big chunk.
that is pretty big.
So that is definitely going. The Department of the DEP is making in 2014 made an organics waste ban, saying that if your facility makes more than 1 ton of food waste per week, you cannot throw it in the trash. You have to divert it.
Oh.
That's been going on for a couple of years. So now at this point we have compost sites for food. And when you compost in a commercial site, it's a 15-foot tall compost pile.
Okay.
It's a very different animal than what you're used to in your backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember,
And
watching
so-
Curious George, and they're like, no mayonnaise, no dairy,
Sure.
no nothing. And I'm
For
thinking,
your
chicken parm.
backyard,
For your
that's true.
Yes,
Okay.
that's very smart because the animals will come and find you, and your neighbors will not appreciate that.
Correct.
But in the commercial places, you can usually do
Okay.
bones, fat, and all of the above. Dairy
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
So the other end site, that's a compost site, and that's because there's lots of oxygen. Nature breaks it down outside.
And it's
If-
away from all the neighbors.
That's right.
Yes.
There's another newcomer, and that is it's called anaerobic digestion, and that is because they put it all the food into a container with no air,
Oh.
and a different sort of bacteria get to
Okay.
work on it and create methane, which then gets tapped for electricity.
Oh.
So it's very exciting
okay.
stuff. So we now have 7 or 8 of those anaerobic digesters across Massachusetts.
Cool.
There are thousands across Europe. This is how they handle everything. And so there are also plenty of compost sites. And so this is becoming,
Okay.
kind of standard where now there's an infrastructure. Like as Republic, we have trucks running around picking up food waste and for businesses and manufacturing, plants and things like that. So, so we're diverting it, which is really good because like you said, we don't have enough room for trash.
Yeah, and on the municipal side of things, I would say there's a handful of municipalities that are offering it as a municipal service. So
Okay.
what comes to mind is Cambridge. They They did a series of pilots scaling up their effort, and last April, about a year ago, they launched citywide providing curbside food waste collection. And then the town of Hamilton, Wenham, like those two towns, have a combined service that the town is paying for. You mentioned Beverly before, but what's happening there is it's actually a subscription service that a collective of folks have all agreed to pay so much out of pocket for that service, which brought the vendor to their municipality. And so that's actually happening more and more, but it's not a municipally provided service. It's instead a subscription service. So what's happening in Newton, and I know a couple of other municipalities that are in the same situation, we piloted a small curbside collection effort for food waste last year. And where we're stuck is the economic piece, to have the municipality take on an additional cost for another truck to go around. And the reason that that doesn't really offset is because sure, you're diverting, up to 25% of the trash stream. Well, that's not that.
People will buy the recyclables.
It's that you still have to pay the truck to go around and collect the trash. Now you're paying another truck to go around and collect the food waste. So even though you're saving a little bit on keeping the food waste out of the trash, you're not saving enough to cover the cost of an additional truck. So the way that the West Coast is now doing this, a lot of places in California and Oregon are providing this curbside service, because what they've done is they provide recycling one week, trash the opposite week, and they provide food waste collection every week.
Yeah, because you don't want to wait for the food.
And so when you do that math, that's actually the same number of trucks that right now, a city like Newton, where we have every week trash and every week recycling, it would be the same number of collections.
Right. So there's 2 trucks each week, but they're
exactly what it's picking up. Yeah.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah. Exciting stuff.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to just go back to recycling for a minute in terms of a common question that we get is, so what's the future of recycling?
Yes,
right. If the whole thing has been tipped on its head and everybody's paying more now, how is that going to get better? And the answer is local recycling, manufacturing facilities that use recycled materials. So we used to send it to China. Why couldn't we make paper into paper here?
Yeah.
Or plastic into plastic, or anything, anything else. So, so the answer is that is the end game. That is what we're working on. The DEP is giving out big grants for that, trying to inspire businesses to come into the States and keep it local.
Cool.
We have much better resiliency, right? And you don't have to, if you don't have to truck it as far, and the whole thing doesn't cost as much to ship. Much better in so many ways. Plus, a whole lot more manufacturing jobs would be good, right?
Yeah.
Good for business.
Excellent.
So just.
Well, we are out of time.
So
thank you very much. I love it when you guys come on, because I always learn something. And I get to sound smart when I leave. So thank you very much for coming, and hopefully we can have a nice Earth Day celebration now that we've talked about recycling.
Yeah, happy Earth Day.
And I would like to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening, and I hope you come away with learning something from our wonderful guests like I have. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you around town. Good night.
Saying this